Good morning, Justice Warriors. It's Wednesday. It's June 28th, I believe. It's just a little bit after 10 in the morning. So last night was, well, for me, last night, for West Coast, it was afternoon, 4:30 Idaho time, was about 7:30 Ohio time. And the criminal defendant in the Idaho 4 case had some motions, some hearings in the situation over there. Let me start out by asking you to please hit your like button. There we go. Share, subscribe, ring your notification bell. S'il vous plaît. Yeah. So everything I say is simply my opinion. It's simply for the sake of conversation, hoping to open up a discussion, always hoping to learn something and hoping to be educational for others as well as myself. So all my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. I want to include that each and every time because, you know, it's the fine line between like education and entertainment. Personally, I've always enjoyed documentaries more so than non-documentary types of television shows and movies. So, I don't know that you'd call that entertainment, but I guess so. Some people wouldn't. If they don't like documentaries, they'd just be like, yuck. But anyway, I digress. Back to the Idaho 4. So we thought we were going to have live streaming, right, in the courtroom, but we're very fortunate that there's videotaping, recording allowed in the courtroom. I think that's extremely positive. And every single thing that we see is being analyzed and scrutinized to death. So already, immediately, once the recordings became public and were on the news, the major media networks, I heard people criticizing Koberger for not smiling and criticizing his lawyers for smiling. Seriously. There's no way you can win. Like, can you imagine if he came out smiling, people would just be like, oh man, wipe that smirk off your face, MF. And if his lawyers came out not smiling, people would be like, oh, they must be feeling hopeless. So let's just start with the criminal defendant. I've been in court. I've been in situations where I've testified. I've been in situations where I've just been observing or multiple different hats that I've worn in court. And it's nerve-wracking. And that's when it has nothing to do with you. It's still nerve-wracking. So imagine being there. He just found out the day before probably that it was in fact going to be a death penalty case. And whether he's guilty or not guilty, that is pretty heavy duty. But let's just pretend for a moment, if you can, that he's not guilty. Give him the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law, please. If he's not guilty and he knows he's being set up and he knows it's going to be really hard to prove that, if not really hard, impossible. And then he's finding out that he might be put to death for something that he's perhaps wrongly accused of. Perhaps he'll be wrongly convicted. We don't know. We don't have all the answers, but I don't understand why people are so invested in, yes, he did it. We know he did it. His DNA's on the sheath. Like, how many times do we need to go over that? Police have had a history of planting evidence, unfortunately. This knife sheath is so sus. If indeed it was found the way they allege it was found, wouldn't it have been covered in Madison Mogen's DNA in a liquid? Wouldn't it have been covered? Like, just stop right there for a second and think. Anyway, I wanted to talk about just how when you're stressed out, I know when I'm stressed out, I usually just throw up. Some people get headaches. Some people even pass out. But when you are going to trial, your body is going to be giving you stress responses that you've never even imagined. And that's just a trial of, like, let's say a car accident or something, to find out if you're at fault, if your insurance company has to pay, if someone else's insurance company has to pay. So, you know, stress is something that we feel in our bodies, and I can't imagine what anybody would be going through in a situation like that. But also, we don't know what was discussed in the hallway right before the attorneys and the criminal defendant came in. We don't know what's been discussed in perhaps judges' chambers. So they didn't do all the things that we thought they were going to do. The lawyers know things that the defendant doesn't know, and the defendant knows things that the lawyers don't know. Even if the defendant is trying to be completely clear and open and honest with their lawyer, which everybody should be, because, you know, they're there to represent you and they need to know everything. But, you know, his lawyers were fighting to get access to the records of things like the training for the police officers that did the interviews and the investigations. And that's something that's pretty basic in most states. It sounds like in Idaho, there's the possibility that they won't have to share that. To me, that sounds nuts. That sounds absolutely nuts. Also, just the simple fact of wanting records of how law enforcement changed from searching for a 2011 to a 2013 Elantra to then saying, oh, well, here, we found the guy and we found the Elantra, and we knew that it could have been up to a 2016. We just didn't say that, even though we were begging you to help us find it. You guys, it doesn't make sense. It's like the law enforcement keeps changing the goalposts to fit whatever narrative they want. So, you know, we were hoping that we were going to hear a few more points argued. And I'm sure most of us were hoping that we would get a decision from Judge. But, you know, he's given himself good time to think things over and mull things over. Personally, I think it's always good to sleep on things before you make a big decision. Absolutely. And, you know, we just have to be patient. You know, we just have to be patient. Patience is a virtue, but I don't have the time. Another David Byrne Talking Heads quote, just so happens to be from the song Psycho, Unaliver. You know the song. Anyway, that's one of my favorite lyrics. Patience is a virtue, but I don't have the time. I'm going to wrap her up. I'm going to try to do a second video later today. We'll see if that happens. Actually, I'm not going to make any promise because it's kind of a packed day. So I will try, because I'm using my cell phone, as you can see, and I'd like to do one on my laptop, but I do what I can. So have a great rest of your Wednesday. I hope you can get some fresh air and sunshine. I know for a lot of people it's way too hot and way too smoggy. We've got our skies messed up from the Canadian wildfires still. We've got heat waves across the country that are extremely dangerous. So stay hydrated, relax, stay well nourished. Protein, fruits, veggies especially. You know the drill. Take it easy, keep an open mind, consider things that you haven't considered before. I know that it's the popular belief that Kohberger did it, and I get that. I was under that impression for the first few days after they arrested him. 100%, 100%. And I was so relieved that they arrested somebody. And then when all these red flags started being raised, in my opinion, I didn't want that. I didn't want that at all. We don't want to think that people could be so sinister, especially people in positions of power where they can play God, not just with the criminal defendant, but with the public at large, with public safety. We do not want crooked people in positions of power, but unfortunately, the fact is, there are crooked people in positions of power. So they need to be weeded out. Sometimes the FBI gets in there and arrests them for whatever it is that they've done. I put a link on my community tab of I think it's ABC investigative journalism, looking at a judge and courtroom proceedings in Arizona a few years ago that were as crooked as they come. So these things do happen. They rarely get discovered. They rarely get resolved. So be happy for every single one that is discovered and resolved. And let's just hope that Judge is going to do everything above board. So far, it seems like he is, in my opinion, in my estimation. So just grateful for every little thing. And, you know, I really want the person responsible for hurting Madison, Kaylee, Ethan, Xana, and their families. I really want that person or those people held accountable, certainly locked in a cage for the rest of their lives at the very least, if not the DP. So on that, I'm going to say, sending you light, sending you love. We've got to fight the evil in the world. There is true evil in our world, unfortunately. We know this. We absolutely know this. We wish it wasn't true. We wish there was something that we can do about it. And I feel like every little bit helps. So I will see you on the next one. Have a really good afternoon. I hope you can be productive and also get some rest if you need a nap, or you can just put your feet up while you're working. Whatever it is that you're doing today, enjoy it. Take nothing for granted. Be yourself. Love your animals, love your family, love yourself. And that's pretty much all we can do. Keep on keeping on. Sending you light, sending you love. See you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you.